Let's talk about this with Philippa Yasbek. She's co-founder of the group Gun Control NZ. She joins me from Wellington, New Zealand. Philippa, thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. First question for you. We saw the Prime Minister there. She's tightening gun controls, or she's trying to, but now pro-gun groups are pushing back. Was this expected?
Yes, we do, believe it or not, have a gun lobby in New Zealand. They're perhaps not quite as powerful as the NRA in the US, but they have been here for a long time, and they have been opposing quite successfully changes to our gun laws for at least the last 20 or 30 years. So we're not surprised that they're starting to fight back now.
So specifically, an area that's complicated for is the buyback program for banned guns. What are the issues around that?
I think the issues are that no one's quite sure how many guns there are out there that have been banned, so it's difficult to say whether or not the buyback is a success. We're also only 3 months into the 6-month process, so we won't really know how many weapons have been collected until it's over. If we look at the pattern in Australia, there were a lot of guns handed in right at the start and a lot handed in right at the end. The gun lobby here has been telling people to hold on to their guns till the last moment, so we won't know how it's going until we get to the end on the 20th of December.
Okay, so with gun lobby groups taking on the Prime Minister's proposals there, and even some saying they're going to take this to court, what will groups like yours do that support gun control, especially in light of what happened with the heinous shooting that New Zealand saw?
Well, the gun lobby, I should say, is very small. Probably about 5% of the population of New Zealand own firearms, but the gun lobby only represents a very small number of those people. Even our gun owners don't necessarily trust them. So they have to kind of fight in whatever way they can. There was overwhelming parliamentary support for the ban on semi-automatic weapons and the buyback. 119 out of 120 MPs voted for it, and 80% of the population supported that. We suspect that the population is still very keen to see further controls brought in, and we think that the government will have the numbers to pass the legislation. The only question is whether they manage to maintain a bipartisan consensus around that. We've seen some really strong lobbying come on with the opposition MPs to try and peel them away, and whether or not they succeed in that, the legislation will still be passed, I think. The government definitely has the numbers to do that, and I'm not sure that they're going to be very successful challenging the laws in court. In New Zealand, our parliament is supreme and sovereign. The laws can't be overturned by the courts, and we've seen one challenge already fail, so I doubt that's going to be a very successful strategy in New Zealand. But again, we'll just have to wait and see.
Right. You sound confident that the gun control groups, have more power over the small gun lobby. But I want to ask you, right after the mass shooting there in New Zealand, the first ever, the initial reaction was swift from the Prime Minister, tightening gun laws. Of course, people react very, very emotionally after something like this. Has it been disappointing to see that groups are pushing back in this area?
Unfortunately, it wasn't our first ever mass shooting. We had one back in the early 90s with 13 people shot dead. And there were some legislative changes there, but they didn't go anywhere near far enough. If politicians had acted appropriately back then, we wouldn't be in this situation. Yes, it is disappointing to see, the same old forces kind of winding up to fight back again. We know that these kinds of law changes are really, really effective at preventing mass shootings. There's some really impressive studies out of Australia by Emeritus Professor Simon Chapman and Philippa, which show just how many mass shootings were prevented in Australia.
Right.
They estimate that 16 mass shootings have been avoided because of their law changes in 1996. And we hope to see a similar effect here.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your input. We'll continue to follow this story. Thank you, Philippa Yasbek. Thanks.
Thank you.